Welcome to Restaurant Influencers presented by Entrepreneur. My name is Sean Walchef, founder of Cali Barbecue and Cali Barbecue Media. Want to say a special shout out to Toast, our presenting sponsor, for believing in storytelling, for giving us the opportunity. They power all of our barbecue restaurants here in San Diego, and they give us the opportunity to have incredible conversations like the conversation we're going to have today. In life, in the restaurant business, and in the new creator economy, we learn through lessons and stories. Today, we have a very special guest. We have Ford Fry. He is the CEO and founder of Rocket Farm Restaurants. You know his concepts, Superica, that's the Tex-Mex concept. They also have a new concept called Little Ray. He's published cookbooks. He's been James Beard semifinalist multiple times. He's won all the awards, and he is an incredible restaurateur. We're honored to have you on the show. Chef Ford Fry, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Where in the world is your favorite stadium, stage, or venue?
I guess just outside Denver, Red Rocks.
Red Rocks. Ooh,
Red Rocks, one of my favorite live music venues.
Well, I love the fact that you said Red Rocks. I went to school in Boulder, huge fan of Red Rocks.
There you go.
One of the things that we want to do is improve the restaurant hospitality conference scene. So we want to bring people that listen to this show. We're so fortunate that Entrepreneur helps us reach millions of fans all over the globe, but people that are playing the game within the game, people that really want to be more than just a restaurant. It takes so much time and effort and blood, sweat, and tears to get into this business, but to grow the way that you've grown, we want people to learn from you. So I'm going to put you on center stage at Red Rocks. I'm going to give you 2 minutes. I know you launched your first restaurant in 2007, and now here we are in 2023. I want you to take 2 minutes and tell me, when we look back 15 years from now, what are you going to have accomplished on top of what you've already accomplished 15 years into the future? When you listen to this show on the internet, I'm going to say, well, did I think big enough, or did I not think big enough?
So 15 years from now is what you're saying?
15 years from now, what is?
Oh, gosh.
what will it have looked like? What will it look like?
Wow. I would say at some point I'd be stepped aside, working even more with my brain than my hands, as far as it, but probably helping other people. Like I want it to look like I want to help others kind of get and do the thing that I've done, because I'm in a really great place now where we have too many people doing all the stuff that I don't want to do, and some of the stuff that I do want to do, but we have people doing it, so I don't really do it. So I kind of, I'm just always been a dreamer, so I want to be dreaming more stuff. And then I want to help, if there's others, younger people who want to do it, I want to help them, because there's nothing more like when someone reaches out to me on Instagram or whatever. Hey, I want to do this. Do you have like 5 minutes? I just want to do a lot of that, and if that's creating more businesses or more restaurants or more dining experiences, then that's what I hope to see. I hope to see that I've turned into someone who helps others like others have helped me along the way.
Love that. Now, can you give the audience an idea of the breadth of what the restaurant group encompasses?
Yeah. So I started in 2007 with one restaurant and didn't really have, I knew I wanted to do more, but didn't really have a clear vision of what that really looked like at that point in time. And a few years into that, I was really inspired by other chefs in town who were my friends, and hey, how can I help them with access to capital or access to kind of the business wherewithal, because I knew they were great chefs, but getting them into their own restaurants and starting to, so originally it was like, let's hire a chef and let's partner with them. We've only really done a true partnership with one chef, but it kind of started off like that. And 24 restaurants later, we're kind of a split company. I would say like half of us is we did a big run of, I call them chef driven, one-off restaurants where they were just restaurants I wanted in Atlanta or Houston or Nashville or wherever, that I wanted to go eat at. But growing up in Texas, I always loved Tex-Mex. I didn't call it Tex-Mex. We called it Mexican food, but it's really Tex-Mex. And that's what I grew up eating it once or twice a week. So, but living in Atlanta in the South, there wasn't that Tex-Mex that I was accustomed to going to as a kid. So a location came available that was perfect for it. And that was that. And then all of a sudden, everyone really liked it. Hey, we need this in our neighborhood. So we're split between the Superica and Little Ray now, which we can talk about that at some point. And then these one-off restaurants, anything from the Optimist, which was a restaurant that really I would say, got us nationally recognized. And that's kind of our big seafood oyster bar type thing, and up to even Marcel, which is our super expensive Frenchy steakhouse. So there's a groups of, I don't know, 10 or so chef driven restaurants that are kind of all one-offs. And then there's the Supericas, which are more growth vehicles. And
so
that's us.
There's on your website, it's one of the coolest things that I've ever seen. And, we've been fortunate to be doing this podcasting, long form storytelling for a long time, since 2017. But on your website, you have a music menu, a Spotify music menu.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about how music's played a role in the concepts that you create?
Yeah, they started off with me making the playlists for at least the first 3 restaurants. So I had to sit down and make these playlists, and the playlists were things that I wanted to evoke people into. I wanted to kind of transport them into a place, not necessarily Disney, but there's probably a lot more humor in certain things. Like for the Optimist, I wanted to have like elements of the Beach Boys and maybe a little reggae vibe, and just to make you feel like you're on vacation and you don't have to worry about the rest of the world. So I want people to think of the music as wow, that was thoughtful. But what happened was the servers are hearing the same list over and over and over, and they're like, hey, can you change it? I'm like, oh, I'm too busy. So now we have actually a guy in-house who does all our music, updates it all. His brain for more music is way bigger than mine. So, a lot of times I still go into restaurants and I'm like, hey, this is not right. Just erase it all and let's start over, going in a whole new different vibe or something. Sometimes you just don't know what vibe is right until you're in there eating and it feels right, so it's huge. I mean, I play guitar and was in a band in high school, and I love music. So for me, that's a big part of the experience.
And now a quick break from restaurant influencers to share an exciting new offer from our sponsor, Atmosphere TV. Go to atmosphere.tv/BBQ to not only get Atmosphere TV for free, but also our audience is given the gift of $200 in ad credits, as well as free activation. Join more than 40,000 other venues who use Atmosphere TV by signing up with the code BBQ at atmosphere.tv/BBQ. Keep guests entertained with Atmosphere TV because you have the ability to turn your promotions and your advertisements onto your television with this platform. The simple plug and play device lets you take control of the content on your screens. Keep guests entertained, engaged, and informed of real-time specials, career opportunities, and announcements that you can personalize within your own custom content dashboard. Tap into great channels such as America's Funniest Home Videos, Fashion, Throttle, Chive TV, sports highlights, Red Bull, Real Madrid, along with unbiased news and entertainment. There is something for everyone. Over 60 curated channels of short form, entertaining content to choose from right at your fingertips. They also have an incredible ad-supported network that allows you to not only market within your 4 walls, but also locally or nationally if you desire. The platform gives you full control to dial in your marketing efforts. Please go and visit atmosphere.tv/BBQ and let them know Restaurant Influencers sent you. When one of the previous guests on this show, Matt Plapp, he was speaking with Guy Fieri, and Guy Fieri was talking about they were talking about storytelling and why it's so important for restaurant owners to tell their story. And what Guy said was, music sounds different when you understand the journey that a band has been on. And when you bring that into food and you bring that into the hospitality business, I love the fact that you lead with music, that it's such an important integrator. I mean, the fact that you have someone on your team that's literally responsible. I can't wait to get to that point. But can you bring us into the craft of creating these concepts and, creating that energy? Do you have a concept, like your second concept? Because the first one's always the baby, but the second concept, can you bring us to the second concept, bring us to that story?
Yeah, that story was basically a location came available to me by a landlord, and it was in Decatur, which is on the opposite side of town as my first restaurant. And a friend of mine, Drew Boline, is a super talented chef, and I knew he was looking at starting his own restaurant and getting into his own restaurant. So when this came available, I said, "Hey, do you want to partner on this one? Do you want to throw some money in?" Because I think Decatur, I looked at the city of Decatur and I'm like, it's really dry. It really doesn't have Italian food. It doesn't have it. It was missing that, I thought, and so that was important for me, is like, don't go into a restaurant saying, "Hey, I'm just going to cook my food no matter what restaurants are around me." No, and people are going to come. It's more about, hey, what does the community need? What does the community want? So that was what I kind of came up with. And I knew Drew kind of had that California Italian style to him. So I'm like, "Drew, let's do this." So Drew threw in some money and we got it going. So it's number 246, and number 246 was the historic lot number for where the restaurant is. And that's what it is. I had a tiny kitchen, wood burning pizza oven. That was back in the time, I'd say it's about 11 years ago, where restaurants were very hyper focused on regional Italian. Like, no, I want to do Roman food, or I want to do Ligurian food or something like that. And critics were looking for us to do that. But that wasn't what it was. What it was California Italian. It was which to me means Italian techniques using local farmed ingredients. Because back then, it seemed like California was kind of leading the way when it comes to the old farm to table, which we don't really say that anymore. We just do it, and that's how Drew cooked. So it was just, hey, whatever comes in the back door, we treat it simply, and that's pretty much where that one came from. That was the story of that one.
Do you have any restaurateurs that are mentors to you that helped you along your way?
Most of it is just me watching and researching. And I don't want to. I'll speak to someone. I can't speak to his personal life, but Mario Batali, I looked at what he was doing, and I saw him doing that. I saw him helping other people get into restaurants and letting them run with it, and that really spoke to me. The music side, he also, what he was doing also spoke to me from a music side, because I remember we went to Baba one time. This was before I even started my first restaurant, and was sitting in the bar, and my first thought would be is, okay, he's going to be playing Italian music or something, real Disney. And it was like U2 War album.
No
I'm
way.
like, wow, that is like real. I'm like, and that was the era of like, hey, let's just shake it up a little bit. Let's just play the music we want to play. And the music was an expression of the chef and what the chef liked. So we definitely went down that path for a while. Now the pendulum has kind of turned, and I'm looking to be a little more thematic because I think it's more fun. But but I think times change. But he was one that just was doing that stuff, and his restaurants were really good. His food was really good. So from a restaurant, and then so a lot of them New York. We would travel to San Francisco, and um, Real Restaurants was. Now I'm dating myself, but Real Restaurants was based out of San Francisco and Napa, and what I learned from them was just humor. There was always like some sort of humor in the menu, like just made whatever, or as opposed to homemade or house made. It was like just made, so
We
there was a
just
lot
made
of
it.
exactly, and they had like what was the diner, like Fog City Diner, and then there's Trevina in Napa, and um it was just those big restaurants like that. I thought those were really, and again, I'm dating myself, but that was a while ago. That was 20 years ago or so. Um, those are the guys. Those are the ones that were inspiring to me back in the day. Kind of set, kind of how I like to do things.
Out of all the concepts that you've created, which one was the most challenging and why?
I would say King and Duke, which is our 4th restaurant, which was based off of all wood burning hearth. Had different 3 levels of kitchens. That has been the most difficult because the guests didn't understand. It's in kind of the Buckhead, the main area of Atlanta, and everyone's kind of like, well, what is it? Is it Italian? Is it French? What is this? And it's like, no, it's none of those. It's food cooked off a wood burning hearth, and that's just what it is. And that one's been just difficult to execute out of. Like right now, I see people that are cooking off wood burning hearths. There's a lot of sous vide going on beforehand, and then they just kind of throw it on the wood burning hearth, and then it goes out. Well, we're not doing that. You know what I mean? So we're cooking more fully on everything is cooked on wood. So it just was difficult with staffs, and keep training new staff how to cook over wood and manage your fire and all that. So that's been the most difficult one for me.
Have you had any pushback as you've been growing your concepts from people that said, why are you making it so hard on yourself? This is not how you can scale. You have such a gift.
No, not really. I think the pushback we got was, I don't know. Some people were just, I don't know if it's just a hater, but they would just say, Ford's growing too fast, or slow down, you know what I mean, dude, or whatever, that kind of stuff. And then the media, you get like the first restaurant, you're the underdog, and then the critics love you. And then once you start being making money or whatever, or getting bigger, or appearing to make money, honestly, you know what I mean?
Don't tell them the secrets.
Exactly. They're like, okay, who's going to be the first to take him down? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then it just comes this takedown mentality, and it's like, hey, I'm sorry you were bullied as a kid, and now you're trying to get your voice out there, but just call it the way it is, and I look back upon that. But as far as like, I was very thankful, as an underdog, and how the media treated me as an underdog. I mean, I wouldn't be here today if I didn't have a great review out of the first restaurant. It probably would have tanked, and then I would have been working for someone else, which who knows, maybe I'd be selling produce or something. So,
well,
sorry
no,
selling produce.
No, I mean, we need people to help us sell produce, but we also need help with storytelling. I mean, that's one of the reasons why we started this show is, for me as a restaurant owner, I didn't have anyone coming. I mean, literally, we created our own media company because I realized that no matter how good a barbecue we made, how great our hospitality was, no one was coming to tell our story. And for me, I'd love for you to talk about the relationship with the media. I mean, as somebody that is a James Beard Award semifinalist for Outstanding Restaurateur 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016, and 2017. Can they give you the award already, or are you just going to keep becoming the semifinalist?
No, I don't know. That was one. Speaking of media, that is, I would say it's probably I would say our best food critic in Atlanta, who was on that board. And she was on the James Beard board, and she was the one who kept nominating me for this. Now that she's off the board,
I've fallen off the nomination list. You know what I mean? But she is one that I can have a conversation with, and she's like, Ford, don't don't change your menu based upon what I say. Change your menu based upon what your guests say. And I'm like, okay, and we have a relationship where we can talk about things. We can talk about where if I think she may be wrong on something or if I think she's right on something. And for the most part, I listen to what everyone says and really try to understand if something is going wrong and take it seriously. But I don't know what the question was, but that's where that is. I do have open lines to media, and and I'll talk to the ones that and thank them. It's like, hey, because it's a lot of times it's been really good feedback. Say we got 2 stars out of 4 stars. I'm like, oh, I don't really like that. But I look at it and say, okay, that doesn't really matter as long as I can take what it is and learn from it and move forward and get better. Now, if something's unfounded, like, the whole, when you've got someone who's more in a takedown mode, then,
Yep.
Okay, you know what I mean? That doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? So
as somebody that opened their first restaurant in 2007, we opened our first restaurant in 2008. And one of the things I talk about frequently is the first iPhone came out in 2007. So much technology has happened literally as we've been building our restaurants and as we've been getting on Facebook, getting on Instagram. How has technology played a role in your restaurants as you guys have expanded?
Man, it's huge. We have we have a department of 1, 2, 3 people who are dedicated to that. It's just grown over the years. From getting, content and getting photos, actually communicating with guests. I think, what's the hard deal? Why do you need 3 people? It's like, just take a picture and post it. It's easy. I do it, and it's like, no, it's everyone saying, hey, what's your menu? Okay, that's what a website is for. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, there's a lot of, or hey, I left my credit card. So people use that as their direct line of communication to the restaurant anymore. They don't call the restaurant like they do. So, to me, it was huge because I remember I had, like, when I had my first restaurant, like my son's friends, these little kids, they're 12, 13-year-olds in the back seat of the car, like, hey, Mr. Fry, you need to get a Instagram. I'm like, what's that? You know what I mean? I'm like, really? What about MySpace? Should I be on MySpace? You know what I mean? So like, and now they're like, hey, Mr. Fry, can you give me a shout out? So it's
can you give me a shout out?
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah.
That is awesome. Well, I would love for you to talk about the Instagram and the personal brand. So much, a lot of successful people shy away from the internet, and you obviously haven't. You have a personal brand, you have a personal website. It's an easy place to find out about all of your restaurants. We're going to put a link in the show note. Please go and check it out. You can also find the Spotify playlist, which is absolutely awesome. I got to listen to some new songs. I felt like I was popping around all of your different restaurants just through the music that you curated on that list. So I think that was very cool. Can you talk about, when did you first launch your own personal brand's website, and when did you start actually realizing, obviously from that conversation with your son's friend, hey, you should be on Instagram, but from the hey, you should be on Instagram to actually posting and using Instagram as a channel, those are two big differences.
Yeah. As first as like our brand website, it started off as fordfry.com.
Yep.
And I never wanted to be sometimes I've searched for restaurants that are in restaurant groups, and what happens is you plug in restaurant A or whatever, and it kicks you to their base website, and there's all these swirly things. The next thing you know, you have like 15 restaurants on this one website. And I never really liked that. I really wanted I wanted each restaurant to stand on its own. So I fought that for a long time. So I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 restaurants in, it's like, okay, well, they're like, well, let's start a website, but let's use it mainly for recruiting. Okay.
Yeah.
So we built it around, more around recruiting, and tried to push people through social media and all that, push people to each individual's restaurants
as, because I didn't want to be seen. I still don't want to be seen as a restaurant group, you know. And I've tried to, and you fight that all you want, but you just can't win. So,
Yeah.
but eventually, so I still don't know if people go to our actual Rocket Farm restaurants. They may not even know what Rocket Farm is, and that's probably because I kind of fought that for a long time. You know, it kind of got to be a point where, well, I guess it's my name, the brand. Okay, do I want it to be the brand? I don't know. You know, maybe not. You know, just in case I do something stupid. You know, and then you know, I mean, it's like, so we've kind of gone away from that. And when it's funny because we switched from FordFry.com to RocketFarmRestaurants.com, and then there's all this, oh, Ford got kicked out of his company, and I'm like, okay, okay, you know what I mean? So it's
Uh,
funny.
that's funny. So you wrote, I want to create restaurants that strike a timeless emotional chord. Restaurants that don't pander to trend, but draw generations of families together. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, yeah. Well, that started off early on where my main capital was coming from a family member, and I didn't want to lose his money. I wanted to make sure, and I've never been someone to be trendy. I always kind of buck whatever's trendy. I've always liked classic. You know, I've always liked, um, hey, I want a restaurant that I can go to once a week, not a restaurant once a quarter. And so that to me spoke um a classic, you know. So, and now I'm even more in that, you know. I'm just like, I am so tired of powders, and I'm so tired of putting flowers on top of things to make something look pretty. But I'm like, I'm more about, or microgreens. I'm like, okay, let's don't allow any of that stuff. Let's cook stuff that I want to go eat. So, and that also started with design, because I don't want to have to redesign a restaurant after 10 years or so, which we end up having to do some refreshes and stuff like that. But that never really brings your sales up. That's just money that goes out the window. So I wanted it to be classic, so it could just, like, I wanted to have one of those restaurants where I'm talking about bringing families together. I want, like, where kids, like, their parents bring their kids go off to college, their kids come back to town, and then they start going there, and they start dating, and they meet their husband and their wife there, and then they have kids, and then their kids start going there. And that's, to me, that's just the coolest thing ever. So when there's some restaurants we don't have high chairs, we don't like kids, but hey, bring your kids, you know what I mean? Because those are the
Yeah.
future, you know. And I love that, you know. And what do they come at 5 o'clock anyway, you know, who cares? So to me, that's what it is. Just that's what we do, is we create a setting for people to come and have experiences amongst themselves. You know, experience your girlfriend or boyfriend, experience your spouse, your parents, your kids, and those are the memories. And when I see, especially when I go to Instagram and I start looking at geotags, and I start looking at people's pictures, and I see some kid, you know, eating whatever rice and beans, or eating a quesadilla or something like that. I'm like, gosh, it's just like, this is what it's all about for me.
Yeah, it's spoken a emotional chord when I read it, because that's why I love the hospitality business as much as I
Yeah.
do. You know, I grew up in my grandfather's restaurant, you know, bussing tables and washing dishes, and I hated it. I was 13 years old. I didn't want to do it. But the thing that drew me back was watching people take ownership in the restaurant, families that they weren't owners, but that was their seat in the restaurant, that was their
Yeah.
server, that was their spot. And now, as you say, you know, we've been in business for 15 years. We've been able to see those generations of families come back and share stories of, oh, I remember when I came when this was a breakfast place. And I think design matters. I love the fact that you celebrate, I believe it's Smith Haynes Studio. Can you talk about your relationship with Smith
Yeah.
Haynes and what you guys are able to collaborate with together?
Yeah. So I was just starting the first restaurant, and the landlord is a really creative guy. And he suggested, hey, talking to Smith about doing design. Now, Smith, he had done one restaurant before, and it was out in this sustainable town called Serenby. And it was more of a decorative design, I would say, not a full blown, I don't think. But and I'm like, okay. So I met with Smith, and Smith is funny because he's well traveled. He's got a really great eye for design. And he told me, he said, Ford, he says, I don't know because no one knew me. He's like, Ford, I don't know if your food will be any good. He got a little bit snooty in a certain way. He's like, I don't know if your food will be any good, but it'll feel good. It'll feel good in the restaurant. I'm like, okay, whatever, dude.
Confident in his craft.
Yeah,
I like it.
Yeah.
Confident and skeptical in you.
But it was funny because I'm like, okay. And then he liked the food. And what he did was he created an environment. I said, I'd love an environment that wasn't a restaurant of the month, but wasn't so casual that people are in flip-flops. I wanted it to be a date night spot or just a regular night. I wanted it to be whatever people wanted to make of it, quite honestly. And man, that is just what he delivered. And everyone, we get emails after emails like, hey, what is this paint color? What is this? What is this? And he was right, because his ability to create if you don't cut him off on his budget. Okay. So when you cut him off, you're going to get something that's not complete, and he won't be proud of it. And he'll tell you, but if you don't cut him off or you work with him a little bit, you'll get something that's like, it's just a great feel, and I think about that, because I think when people go to restaurants, like there's a lot of restaurants that are in the bases of, apartment complexes or buildings, and it's hard to create soul. So when you go into some place that already has a little bit of natural soul to it, then you add Smith Haynes into the mix, you've got something that people don't know. I don't think they're registering it. I think it's just a feel, and then they just come back. So it's kind of subliminal, if that makes sense. And then there's some restaurants that people go in and they don't think about it, but they just don't go back because there's no soul. It's kind of cold and something just doesn't feel, you don't think about it. You don't talk about it. It just doesn't jive with someone, and they don't go back. So I want people to come back, so he's just done that. He like, to this day, he says, I know it will feel good. And he hasn't missed, so that's our really.
How many restaurants have you guys done together?
He did like first 3, and he's very creative. So CFO types have a hard time working with him. I'm in the middle.
CFO types have a problem with creatives. Yeah. I don't believe that.
Yeah.
That's breaking news.
So I'm like, okay, well, maybe we're building these restaurants. I said, well, let's find a restaurant designer that Smith looks up to, and let's hire that person and see how it goes. Well, we did that, a little bit, a couple, 2, 3, 4 times. And it's like, okay, we'll go back to Smith. You know what I mean? It's just kind of where we landed. So he's done at least, I'd say, 8 or 9 Supericas for us. He came in and saved the day on a Little Ray for us. He's doing another Little Ray for us. He did the first 3 restaurants. So he's done 15, 16 restaurants for us.
When you were talking, I was reminded, I was recently listening to a podcast with Brian Koppelman and Seth Godin, and they were talking about, Seth Godin was sharing a story about visiting Momofuku in the early days, David Chang's restaurant.
Yeah.
What he said is the first 18 times that he went to the restaurant, he always got the Brussels sprouts, and he asked them not to add the bacon, and they would gladly not add the bacon. And then he remembers going in and then asking them for the Brussels sprouts without the bacon, and they said, sorry, we can't do that anymore. And he says, as upset as he was at that decision, he knew at that time that was when David Chang would make it, that they would be bigger than just that tiny, noodle bar restaurant.
Wow.
It takes courage. It takes courage to know what you stand for as a restaurant owner. I think one of the biggest lessons that I learned was, just because we can do it doesn't mean we should do it.
Yeah.
How has that played a role in the restaurants that you've created?
That's a tough one, because the early part of my career was early day Ritz-Carltons, and they were known for yes every time. And for the most part we give the guests what they want. I would say it's just kind of in my nature to not be able to say no. If it's coming up in one of our new restaurants that we're
our first restaurant, we've gutted it, and now we're doing a whole new thing. And upstairs, the bar is getting turned into this steak free type place, where that's basically all it is. And currently we're using the spinalis, so the cap of the ribeye, which is just amazing, and even downstairs we have a burger that is like, we take a dry aged ribeye and grind it, and it's like really amazing. But when you eat it well done, it's really bad, So
Yes.
when you get to that point, it see upstairs, if someone wants a well done steak, it's like, you should have the vegetarian option, you know what I mean? Which will be great, but you don't want to just
Yep.
don't do that, And so if it's going to make it bad, which to your point about the bacon, maybe it's, then I don't like the burger. We're going to say, hey, it's served medium rare unless
Yep.
you really scream loud or something silly on the menu,
I love that.
So,
Tell me more about Little Ray. How did it
yeah.
come to be?
Little Ray was our play on the goal for me was to have Supericas amongst the Southeast, Florida, Tennessee, the Carolinas, Georgia. And very often we're getting spaces. Hey, we got a cool space for you for Superica, but it's only 3,500 square feet. So my thought was to help the growth of Superica, we could kind of tag along Little Ray's. So we have Supericas, and then Little Ray is basically a chicken al carbone quick service model. Order at the register. We got homemade tortillas. We got all the salsas homemade. We're cooking over wood. We've got a smoker. We've got a custom made wood oven that cooks our chicken. We've got a wood burning grill. So it's loaded with so much equipment, but it's also got margaritas and beers and stuff like that. So it's a quick service, but it's also alcohol related too. So it's kind of it was meant for, hey, well, we can just from economy of scale, we can kind of place these around Supericas, which aren't like Superica. It's not like fajitas and enchiladas and things like that. It's more tacos and salads and for the most part bowls, breakfast tacos and Mexican breakfast on the weekends. And so it's got some of the same stuff to it, but it's different enough. It's a different experience. So that's what Little Ray is. And Little Ray is just off the chart. It's just busy.
Are they in every Superica? Is there a Little Ray in every Superica?
No. I was saying like we only have one Little Ray now, but I'm saying in the towns that Superica goes, we would place Little Ray. So we've got a Little Ray in Houston, working on. We've got a few more here in Atlanta we're working on. So
how close in proximity to the Supericas?
I mean, within a 2-3 mile, I would say distance would be good. Really depending on sometimes people in certain neighborhoods only go to certain neighborhoods. So it could be close, but not too close, if that makes sense.
Yeah. On June 21st, 2022, you put a post on Instagram. As a dad, I wish I had more time off in the early days of my career to spend with my kids when they were babies. And you made a change in your restaurant group. Can you talk about that?
God, what was that? That was probably a PR push, wasn't that? Doesn't it sound like a PR push? No, was that? I don't know. I know
that was for parental. I'm talking about parental time off, parental leave.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Well, that is a time where we're trying to figure out. That's staffing was a big problem. So it's like, how do we get the word out that, hey, you want to work here? We treat our employees like they are assets, not as a tool. They are the most valuable asset on our balance sheet. So it's like, understand that we're gonna, parental leave. Like, so for, for the longest time, women could, who got pregnant, they would go off and, hey, yeah, you can take the time off, but you're not paid, and you can come back. And really our director of marketing was like, wanting to get pregnant. So she was hounding me saying, hey, we really need to do this. And we don't have a ton of people that get pregnant, but it basically speaks to women like, hey, I mean, you didn't choose to be created so that, you know, you're the one who has to have babies, you know, but so we can respect that. Let's respect that, because what we were noticing is after the pandemic, a lot of females weren't coming back to work, and females are just great in the restaurant industry. I mean, I love females in the restaurant industry, and to have a lot, you know, fewer of them was just a problem for me. So I think that's what that push was all about.
Do you want your kids to be in the hospitality business?
And they don't, I mean, I would be fine if they would, but I've got like a 25 and 23 now. So they're getting, you know, one of them is getting into real estate. So that'll be probably commercial real estate. So that'll probably be some of the, he'll probably be dealing with restaurants, but as a kid, you know, but as far as like getting into like cooking and all that, I'm like, no, I don't think so, you know, because I remember early on, this is funny that I was in college and living in the fraternity house and not making good grades, not going to class. And my dad was like, hey, I know you like to cook. He's trying to help me out here. He's like, I know you like to cook. There's an article out in the Wall Street Journal about fast track careers. And it was talking about
fast
yeah, exactly.
Real fast, Dad.
yeah. He was talking about culinary school. So I'm like, oh, okay, you know, and like fast track. I mean, my ass. I mean, that was just
low
like,
and slow.
Exactly. And so it was. I mean, it is. I am glad I'm where I am now. But it was a lot of hours. I mean, it was a lot of hours, but it taught me how to work hard. I mean, I would highly advise anyone to work in the restaurant industry just for a little bit, you know, just to understand pace of work and productivity, because that'll help you in whatever else you're doing. But I, you know, probably wouldn't suggest it for my kids for their family life, I'd say, you know.
So every single week on Wednesday and Friday on the social audio app Clubhouse, we have an incredible group of hospitality leaders. If you're listening to this podcast, we want you to join us on the app. It's Wednesday and Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific time, whether you're in the restaurant business, sales, business, marketing, if you're a content creator. We've got some incredible people that join us every week. And we always give a shout out. So this week's shout out goes to Howard Solomon of Solomon Leaders 2.0. Howard's actually part of our Cali Barbecue Media team. He helps me with growth here in San Diego, and he's been showing up in the room. So Howard, thank you for showing up. But I wanted to give you, Ford, an opportunity to call out somebody on Entrepreneur. I know you've got an incredible team and everybody's valuable, but I need one person on the team that gets a special shout out for right now on Entrepreneur.
Is it on my team, you're saying?
On your team, absolutely.
Oh, Kimberly Van Leuven. This girl is our executive vice president. We're 24 restaurants in, and she has opened 23 of them.
Wow.
And she still works like a champ. So hopefully we pay her well. So if anyone wants to try to poach her away from listening to this, sorry, but she is amazing. She's someone you want to give equity to. She's someone that you want to treat as an owner and you want to reward. So, hey, shout out to Kimberly.
That's awesome, Kimberly. And any kind of words of wisdom for anybody that's looking to open up their first restaurant?
It's highly rewarding. I would say my biggest thing that I say that's worked for me is empowerment. That you're only as good as your people. So if you want to open something, you know, make sure you're not a slave to the business, but you are able to big enough so that you could manage your business from above, and you can grow as opposed to time to make the donuts, if that makes sense. So make sure your business, this is what I was told, is make sure your business is big enough that it doesn't rely upon you. Now, okay, you know, maybe first year or two or whatever, that's fine, but learn it. But for the most part, try to be big enough so it doesn't have to rely upon you to keep it going, if that makes sense.
That's awesome. Yeah. If you guys want to connect with me, it's at Sean P. Walchef, SHAWN PWALCHEF. No matter where you are on earth, we want to hear your restaurant story. We want to hear what you're building. Please interact with me. Please follow Ford Fry and all of his restaurant concepts. They have hundreds of thousands of followers across all of their social channels. We'll put links into the bio so you can go check out restaurants in Atlanta, Houston, Nashville, and Charlotte. Any other new cities that we should know about?
Oh, we've got Winter Park, Florida, and
Okay.
Raleigh Triangle area coming up too.
There we go. Well, Chef Ford Fry, thank you for your time. Thank you for your wisdom. We're grateful. And anybody that's listening to this, we truly appreciate it. Thank you to Toast, our title sponsor, for giving us the opportunity to have conversations like this. We hope you have an incredible day, and we will catch you guys next week. And a special thank you to our title sponsor, Toast. Toast is the primary technology partner that we use at our restaurant, Cali Barbecue. It is also the primary technology partner that so many of the guests have shared with us on this show. People like Sam, the cooking guy, Stacy Poonkinney, Jeff Alexander. So many times the guests tell us that they're using Toast when we didn't even know that going into the interview. That is why we are so grateful that they sponsor this show. We want you to win. You that listen to this show, we want you to improve your digital hospitality. Toast is built for restaurants, and it's built for you. Toast is the restaurant-first platform that's built for your needs, whatever your size, concept, or ambitions. Improve your bottom line with a customizable platform that's easy to learn, use, and grow with. And it meets you where you are with all the right tools for your price point. If you have any questions about Toast, please DM me at Sean P. Walchef, SHAWN PWALCHEF. I will get you the link to the right Toast contact in your market. It's so important that if you listen to this show, that you win. We want you to be on this show eventually. Let us know that you heard the show, you heard about Toast, you implemented Toast, you did a Toast unboxing in your restaurant. Talk to us about how you've impacted your village, your city, your community. Share your Toast story with us. DM me today to learn more, and be sure to check out Toast.